In this week's Torah portion, we learn the laws pertaining to Jewish slaves. If a man steals and then can't repay his victim, the court sells him as a slave. Or if a man can't pay his own debts, he can sell himself as a slave. He serves his master for 6 years, and then he's free to leave.
Your time is up. You know what that means.
Yes, it means I'm free.
But if after those 6 years he decides that he loves his master and wants to stay, his master brings him to court and then takes him to a doorpost, takes an awl, and bores a hole in his ear. He then continues to serve the master until the 50th year, the Jubilee, or Yovel year. Why does he get a hole in his ear? Because God said, don't steal, and he didn't listen. Or in the case of the person who sold himself as a slave, God said, I am acquiring the Jewish people as slaves to me. And this fellow went out and acquired a different master. So he also gets the hole in his ear because he didn't listen. But that begs the question, why don't we put the holes in their ears 6 years earlier, when he first stole, or when he first sold himself as a slave? The answer to that is that back then, it may have been desperation that was forcing his hand. He may have been in a situation like that of Jean Valjean.
My name is Jean Valjean. I stole a loaf of bread. My sister's child was close to death. We were starving.
But now, 6 years later, he's got a choice. And instead of choosing freedom, he chooses to remain in service to a different master. And that's why he gets punished. He should have just gotten up, walked away to freedom, and never looked back. But he's showing us now retroactively that his true motivation those 6 years earlier was not just due to desperation. It was that he didn't care to listen to God's commands. And that principle is an important one for us to realize, that our actions now can sometimes reflect back and reveal our prior motivations. Here's one example. The sages say that any expenditures we make to honor the Shabbos and the holidays are not deducted from the yearly income allotment that God sets for each of us on Rosh Hashanah. So if that's the case, why don't we all go out each week and buy the most expensive roast and most expensive bottle of wine that we could find in order to honor the Shabbos? And by the way, if you do decide to do that, feel free to invite me over. I like all sorts of nice wines, as long as they're dry, red, and kosher. But the reason that we have to exercise some restraint when preparing for Shabbos, even though we do have to spend nicely to honor it, is that those expenditures aren't deducted only to the extent that they're made to honor the Shabbos or the holiday, not to fill our own bellies. But that's a very difficult distinction to make. I love a good roast, and I love Shabbos. How am I supposed to tell what my true motivation was? One way, perhaps, is to consider how you spend those meals. If you spend your time during your Shabbos and holiday meals singing songs to honor the day and sharing words of Torah or Jewish law, you may be retroactively revealing to God that your true motivations were sincere. You wanted to honor Shabbos and the holiday. But alternatively, if you spend your time discussing who's going to win the Super Bowl and which prop bet are you making, or what happened in the latest episode of your favorite TV show, then unfortunately you may be showing God that your true motivations weren't quite so sincere. You were trying to fill your own belly. And so how you spend your time during those meals may well be the determining factor in heaven as to whether your expenditures count against your yearly allotment or not. So make sure to make those meals count spiritually, and you may find yourself getting some financial benefits as well.